one of the realities about the world that we live in, and the internet is one of the biggest, cultural shifts, for maybe hundreds of years. I don't know, perhaps ever. That things are driven by popularity, alone, So if a song, if a worship song becomes popular, it gets pushed up. It trends, and the algorithms push it up, and people like it and share it, and so on. And that means there's probably some very good things about that song, okay? But it becomes popular, and then you get a whole roster of popular songs, and they're in the top 50 or whatever it is because people like them, okay? But is that enough? So it's asking the question, we know what's popular, but what songs does the church need in this season, And that's not going to be a global thing either, There are some songs that just bless everywhere, which is great. I use them, in church. There are certain songs you think, this is so great. I can use it unless it blesses my local church, But there are other criteria, So the way I kind of understand it is, because I grew up in the age of hymn books, right? I was a Baptist. My father was a Baptist pastor, and we had the Baptist hymn book, our denominational hymn book. And in the back, there was an index, You could look for songs on all kinds of themes and subjects, and for times of the year, and Christmas and Easter, and so many different occasions. And those hymn books don't come from nowhere, there always was and many hymn books are still published, but there is always a committee that meet and reassess. So the downside is you only get a new edition every 25 years or so. You have to wait a long time. But the upside is that there are a group of people whom a church movement, have decided these are responsible people. They have a theological understanding, they have musical understanding, they have a pastoral understanding. And so they have chosen these songs believing that we will serve this movement, And so you get new songs coming in, and old ones may be dropped because they're not, so useful anymore. But there is a filter, okay? Now, in the present situation, I think the only place there is any filter anymore is the local church, or perhaps if there was a network of churches, a community that realize, that wake up to the fact there is no other gatekeeper to what we sing, What's popular may be great for us, but it may not. We may need other songs at this time. So are we going to use that ability? Now, and I must say also that shouldn't be a heavy-handed thing, I mean, there is a relationship that has to be built up between a pastor and a worship leader, where these kind of things are discussed. In my own church, now I still lead worship in my local church. I'm not in charge of the worship, but we have a rota of worship leaders, right?
Yes.
7 worshipers, and I'm one of those. Okay, so my turn comes round, and but now and again we get together with our senior leader, and we talk about these things. And for example, recently we've discussed, and he said, "Look, this season, particularly after the lockdown and COVID and everything like that, everyone was shut away. We need songs of joy. We think, great, we need songs of joy. Where can we get songs of joy?
There are no songs of joy.
They
need to be written.
They do need to be written. We found a few, and we tried 1 or 2, but some were just hard for us to do because we couldn't just. we couldn't deliver in our local church.
Yeah.
We didn't have the skills, to deliver that vibe, that
Yeah.
feeling, that style, So we had to go back to older songs, because we wanted, that's still a question. We're still saying, where are the songs of joy? Because popularity has created a genre which is very similar, and it's very much that internal, I call it emotional intensity, and every song is kind of, God, me loving God and God loving me, and they may be very good, but if we do that all the time, we just get exhausted, We also have been discussing, God's working us as a loving community, loving one another. Where are the songs of community? Very hard to find, So, and you could go on with listing many other things, a mission, and so on. So I think the local church, the local worshiping community, and the networks that are in close relationship need to begin to pray and discuss and seek God. What are the songs our church needs to be singing at this time?
So concluding, that's my last question to you today, or before lunch. Talking about unity in church, talking about giving glory to our God in unity. What is a song all about in this reality we're talking about? Why do we sing songs? What is so special about song of worship in terms of worshiping God in unity?
Well, I'm sure there are many aspects, but I think the central one is that we are worshiping God. Okay. Now, yeah, of course we're worshiping God, but what is it about God that we are worshiping? And if you're thinking about unity, God is a unity, a triunity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And that's another thing that's missing is Trinitarian songs, If we sang more about the nature of God, we would begin, I think, to with our faces lifted to this God who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and where there is a mutual serving and loving and in God Himself. It's the nature of God.
Yes.
And the call
Unity.
to us is to be like God, there's that great picture of it's like the Father, and like one arm is the Son, is Jesus, the other is the Holy Spirit, and so He brings us together,
Beautiful
through
picture.
the work of the Father's love and the work of the cross and the present power of the Holy Spirit. Well, we've got to get our eyes off ourselves, because we're not seeking unity so we can just fulfill some great project we have, and the project is God's glory, and so our focus on Him, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, worshiping this God of unity, and then discovering what flows out of that, which is loving God, and then, what's next? Loving your neighbor. So out of one flows the other. What is God like? He's like this. He's merciful, He's kind. So we're following Jesus. So, okay, so that's how we should be, and it flows out from the work, putting God at the center